Hi there, my name is Amber Horsley, and it is my privilege to share how amazing our God is with you. And I have kind of just a fun story about my beginnings and roots of my profession and my practice, and how I found my practice, how I met my initial doctor that I worked with, and all those things, because just with anything in life and everything in life, it was God. And that's the big thing, is choosing to look for God everywhere and see him, and you see him everywhere. But for sure, without a shadow of a doubt, my profession was 100% from God, because all these doors were closed to open up specific ones. And that ended up being the profound thing for my practice. So just such a beautiful and humbling thing that we moved to Houston. So actually, before we even moved to Houston officially, I was in school in my undergrad, and I knew I wanted to help people. That was just something that was always a part of me. Like, I just need to help people. And I naturally thought medical field would be the way to go. And I like, well, maybe it'll be psychology, or maybe it'll be through play therapy or occupational therapy or different things like that. I was like, no, I don't want to do like classical medicine, because I don't want to be a doctor, because whenever I see doctors, it's just like, check mark, you're good, see you in 6 months, see you in a year, things like that. And I'm like, no, I want to be more involved in care, and especially more than that, I want to look at like, what is the root cause, what are the different things, like more than just like looking at medications, like what are lifestyle things, and just a different perspective. And so, well, maybe a nurse practitioner or a PA or something. And so I went and shadowed in those areas, and they were better, but still, I feel like there was, at least the places I shadowed, a lack of looking at the root cause of things. And so I just was kind of disenchanted by that. So I went home and I just like Googled alternative healthcare centers near me. And the first one that popped up was called the Alternative Healthcare Center. And I was like, okay, perfect. Sounds like where I want to go. So I strolled right on in and asked to talk to a doctor, expecting a doctor, MD, someone to walk out, and out walked a chiro. And I was like, like I'm starting to like backtrack. So I'm like, I have no idea like what a chiropractor is. Like, knew nothing about it. And he can kind of see my hesitation. So he's like, hey, just come on back. Like, let's just chat. Like, let me see if I can help you find what you're looking for. And I'm like, I obviously don't know what I'm looking for. So sure, let's go. And so we walked back, went to his office. We started just talking. And it was just like, oh my goodness, like, this is what I've been looking for my whole, like, this is what I've been looking for. Because we were talking about how, exactly what I said, like health, it's multifactorial, so many things. Like, what is your diet like? What is your lifestyle like? Are you moving? Are you sleeping? What is your spiritual practice? It's just like everything in life. Like, it's who are you and what is your foundation? And then how is that impacting in creating all your health issues? And I'm just like, yes, like that. And he was just like, and when I told him, I was just like, this is crazy. This is awesome. Like, this is what I'm looking for. He was like, oh yeah, come shadow whenever you want. Like, come on in whenever you want. Like, we need more people in this profession. So I'm sitting here like, absolutely. Because in the hospital setting, when I was just trying to talk to nurse practitioners, PAs, are all like, nope, can't do this, can't do that, can't. It's just like lots of closed doors. So this huge open door was just like very much God telling me, this is what I was meant to do. And so I went home that day and told the hubs, I was like, yeah, hon, I think I'm gonna go be a chiropractor. And he was like, yeah, how long is this one gonna last? Because like, this was my season of life. I kept like kind of flipping or changing or like trying to figure out what I wanted. And I'm like, no, like, this is what I'm gonna do. And it was funny because even a couple of years later, we were talking about, because like being good stewards of our finances is really important to us. And so like Dave Ramsey, no debt, things like that. And so at one point we were talking like years later, and I'm like, well, honey, like, you knew I was going to be a doctor. And so that we would have to have this initially and pay it all off type thing. And he was like, clarity. When we got married, I did not know you were going to be a doctor. And I was like, oh, you're right. Yeah, we just got married in August, and I figured this out in September. And so it was funny thinking about even timing of all of it. But yeah, so I knew that that's what I wanted to do. And so then I strolled on down so that's what I did, is shadow with him all those times. And then after I graduated, then that's next summer, we did a co-op for my husband down in Houston. And so when I'm down there, I'm like, this is great. I'm in Houston. Houston. Like, there are so many chiropractors here. This is gonna be perfect, because I knew at that point I wanted something alternative. Like, yes, chiropractic in itself is alternative and holistic, things like that, but even more so. Like, let's look at diet and lifestyle and just like all the different therapies. And because in chiropractic, what's awesome is that there's so many different specialties or different variations of how people practice, which is so helpful, because you can find that person that's perfect for you. And so I start reaching out to all these doctors, and no, like all these closed doors. I'm just like shocked, because in Rapid, or all the chiropractors I've ever talked to up to this point, are so open. I'm just like, what? And so anyway, Nate and I are at this disc golf tournament type thing, so a quick little disc golf tournament, and I wasn't able to stay that long because I needed to go work, because I had transferred to the restaurant I was working up in South Dakota down here. And so I left, and then when I got home that day, Nate was saying, he was like, yeah, hey, I talked to this guy who, well, when I was the card, we're talking after you left, and like that you want to be a chiropractor, and they're like, oh, hey, there's a chiropractor here at this tournament. And we're like, oh, he was like, oh, really? And so he went and talked with him, and so he was talking with Dr. Chase Hayden, and he was like, yeah, you know, my wife really wants to become a chiropractor, and she's looking to shadow. And he's like, sure, why not? Like, bring her on in. We love shadows. And so here I'm thinking, I'm like, oh man, it's probably just like regular rack 'em, stack 'em, crack 'em, like come in, go out in 5 minutes, like there you go. And I'm like, which is great, you know. At this point, I want to shadow anybody, like, because I want to know, what do I want to do? What do I not want to do? Like, I want to shadow all the things so I can build what is the best practice for me, or kind of figuring that out. And so, and then I go in, and I was just like, what is this? Like, I had never experienced before. He does versions of applied kinesiology and different styles of getting to the root cause of things and looking at your nervous system very in depth. And I'm like, this is incredible. I've never ever experienced this before. And so again, later, it was funny because we were talking about, I was expecting probably just this quick flying 7, like out the door kind of thing. And I was like, this is not it. And he was then saying, he was like, yeah, and I was probably thinking that this person coming in is going to be, whoa, what is this? Because they probably only want that quick little fix. And so it just was so beautiful and so clear to me that God closed all of those doors to open this one, because this is where I was meant to be. And so that that summer of our co-op, I shadowed him as often as I could. And then when we decided to, hey, we're going to move different schools, things like that, we knew pretty quick. We were like, well, you know, let's go back to Houston, because we made connections there. We had friends there. And I had this doctor down there. And so that's what we did. And that's why we moved down to Houston. I went to school at Texas Chiropractic College, and every single like summer like break or things like that, I was always waking up and I was shadowing. And so it was just like a shoe-in. So when I graduated, it was like, you're coming to work here. Like, we already know this type thing. And so just how beautiful that I met this doctor through disc golf. Like, I met this amazing practitioner who ended up becoming one of my best friends, one of my best mentors, both professionally and personally. Like, just, he's an amazing and incredible human being. And so it just was so humbling how God orchestrated this. And especially because after graduating and talking with all the people I went to school with, vast majority of people did not stay where they were. Like, they're like, vast majority of people do not stay with their first associate gig, just because so many of them are not a good fit and they're not fulfilling on one or both ends, or this or that. And so it was just humbling for me, because of all the connections that I made and how I made that connection the whole time. I immediately after school had the perfect job situation, whereas everyone else pretty much that I knew started one place, then shifted to another, and then most of them ultimately opened their own. And so just so beautiful seeing how God orchestrated that. And that's the big thing, is just when you have eyes to see God in all the little things, and how each of those little things can sometimes become big things. And so just choosing to look at God in all of those moments that are along the way. And you never know what little seed that's happening right now that may grow into something flourishing.